I am XS. That's little x, little s, which stands for extra sweet. I'm a Puppy-sensei, and I make Japanese language content to help you level up your abilities. This is Minority Report. Minority Report is a series where I try to do my very best to give a platform to individuals who feel in some way as if they have been marginalized or experience marginalization. Not for grievance, not for drama, but rather because of any individual who feels marginalized the platform to be able to talk openly about what they've been through, about their joys, about their passions, about the things that they love about the world, and about their treatment within this world. You know, I think we have to take the good with the bad, especially when we're talking about things like marginalization and like being a member of a minority community, as I am, as a trans woman, right? I am a minority girl, yeah? And so I wanted this series always to be a way for me to kind of give a platform for individuals who felt in some way unheard, unsung, and marginalized. And I think we're going to have a good conversation today with Riko. I think Riko is going to talk to us about marginalization, some avenues that we don't normally think about when we think of marginalization. And I think that's really important. So I'm going to be calling Riko in just a moment. I will call you in just a second. So we will bring Riko in. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to have a really, really, really good conversation, and I'm truly looking forward to it. So, okay, here we go. I'm about to bring Riko in. Everybody, please show Riko lots of love and support, as you always do, because Riko is a heckin' superstar, I think, and I'm very much looking forward to our conversation today. So, all right, here we go. Let's talk to Riko. Bye now. Hello. Uh-oh. Riko?
Give me a minute, Sensei. Just gotta put it on the right output device.
No worries. You take your time. All right.
I'd like to switch it up on me.
Yeah. Surrounded says, Bienvenidos a Minority Report, Riko. I don't know if Riko can hear me. It's okay. Anyway, thank you for saying that, Surrounded. I'll repeat it again in a moment.
All right, Sensei, can you try?
Yeah.
To me?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Gosh.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey. I'm sending a message from Surrounded. Surrounded says, Bienvenidos a Minority Report, Riko.
Ah. Are you already live?
Yeah, I'm live.
Oh.
Yeah.
I should probably go live myself.
Perfectly fine. Yep, we are here, and we are really, really excited to talk to you. It's going to be really, really wonderful. We're going to have a great time.
Surrounded is here too, somehow.
Very, very cool. So, yeah, this is going to be a great conversation. I've been really looking forward to this. Just glad to have you. So,
I'm glad to be on it, Sensei.
Yeah. Divine Fox says, jumping seats, I see. So, well, great. Let's have a really good conversation today. I want to remind you that this is all about you. This is your platform and your time, and I'm going to ask you some questions that are meant to kind of direct our conversation in certain ways, but if there's anything that you want to talk about, or if there's any question that maybe you don't feel comfortable answering, or that you would like to expound upon, then, by all means, I welcome your dialogue, because it's here for you. This full conversation and platform is meant to help you feel heard, because I think that's really, really super important.
Well, I mean, I kind of do the same on my end, helping others express, their voices as well.
For
At
sure.
least when it comes to their own, to their chronic health conditions and
Hmm.
disabilities. But I'm pretty sure you're aware of
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And I'm gonna say, like, I want to give you a moment to you know plug what you do. But in addition, I just want to say, like, I massively appreciate what you're contributing to the greater VTubing community, and just the content creating community in total, and just people, right? What you do for people really, really matters, and I appreciate it. So,
Aw, thanks,
yeah,
Sensei.
of course. Well, I mean, like, enough beating around the bush. Tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Let me just say hi to the folks in chat
Of
right
course.
now
Yeah,
on
yeah.
my
Take your
side.
time. Take your
Hi,
time.
Divine Fox. Hi, Chi. Good to see ya. Yes, Chi, this is Puppy-sensei series. However, I'm also streaming on my end, so if you want to see me or Sensei on either of our streams, you're more than welcome to. Go to Sensei's. Just go to Sensei's. Don't worry about me. I'm okay. But aside from me, some of you may know me already. Um, Hi Hazel, good to see you. um, some of you may know me already. I'm RikoSiempre, RN. I am a VTuber, registered nurse educator, and a registered nurse in real life. So, what does that mean? That means I am not fulfilling that stereotype that you see of like of people like just wearing the nurse outfit and that dress
Hmm.
and the cap. Um, no, I'm actually am a licensed. I take care of people on the daily. I'm a clinic manager at an outpatient hemodialysis center. I do case management. I do oversight. Do a lot of auditing, but I
Hmm.
still also perform uh, direct patient care as well.
That's
So,
amazing.
um, so a lot of that is also teaching people as well, teach my patients about what they're experiencing, what they're going through,
Hmm.
and in turn, they also teach me because I get to learn about their lives too. And it's been a hell of an experience being a nurse ever since I became one back in 2012 as an LVN. So, but yeah, here I am. I'm hoping to spread some of the knowledge I know, my experience, my skills, and my point of views about nursing and healthcare to the VTuber community. Because unfortunately, it is a bit of a desert when it comes to that kind of education.
Hmm.
And that, if you were to make a Venn diagram of VTubers and people with chronic illnesses, it would be a circle.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so VTubers aren't beating the poor health allegations, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So what better way to do so than in addressing it and letting an actual nurse talk about it?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love
Hi,
that.
Annika. Good to see you, sweetie.
Aw. Um, Hi from me as well, Anika. I love that. I love everything that you just had to say, and I just want to say, like, you already know this, but Riko, you are not only one of my real life heroes, but you are my best buddy, and I hope you know that. That
I know I know
Yeah.
that.
I
I'm happy to
genuinely
be
think
your
the world.
friend.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and I think you're amazing. So, um, well, I'm gonna go ahead and just jump right into our questions because I think you did a really wonderful lead-in. I'm curious, what inspired you to become a nurse?
Okay. So, what inspired me to become a nurse?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. My parents did not believe in me.
Oh no! Oh no!
um, so I actually was really interested in going to musical theater
Oh.
when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I did pretty well in choir. I couldn't dance, but I was willing to learn.
Yeah.
But when I expressed that to my folks, they were like, "Oh, are you sure you want to? I mean,
Mm.
doesn't pay the bills. Are you gonna be singing at weddings and such? I'm like, ouch, mom. Thanks.
Yeah.
Not to throw shade at my parents. I love them, but
Mm-hmm.
um, not the best way to go about, you know, telling your kids dream, telling your kid that their dream is a little, um, what's the word? High in the sky.
Yeah, I know a little bit
So,
about that.
mhm. So instead, almost throughout all my childhood, they pushed me to become a registered nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being, my mom is one.
Okay.
She still actively practices.
Hmm.
So for me, it's I got a lot of my influence from her.
Yeah.
But on one hand, yeah, I felt like I was kind of pushed into it by my parents, but for reasons we'll probably get into later in this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really find my footing into being a nurse until after I experienced becoming a patient myself.
Okay. Okay.
And I think that was the turning point of how I approached um, becoming a nurse and how I wanted to shape my future.
Yeah.
So from there, I decided, yeah, I've become very passionate about my field, about my career because, at the end of the day, I want to help people.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So it kind of took being on both sides of the equation to
Hmm.
understand that you were passionate about it.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest influences was my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
She took care of me ever since I was a young kid, and when she got of older age, I was taking care of her.
Okay.
So, almost all my life, I was, exposed to, being in a being exposed to the caregiver role,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess you could say. So for me, it felt kind of like, hey, it felt like old hat, even though it's not necessarily old hat. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it was. I think those skills and that sense of duty carried over
Interesting.
into what I do now.
Interesting. You know, what's interesting, you actually might not know this about me, but
Mhm.
despite the fact that I don't have any contact with my parents really, both of my parents were medical professionals. Um,
No kidding.
yeah, yeah. And what's very interesting is that both of my relatively successful parents never pushed me to be in the medical field whatsoever. And looking back on that,
Really?
I'm thinking about like, huh, I wonder why that was.
Well, I mean, for it's one I know when it comes to Filipino culture,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure if you're aware of how like there's so many Filipinos
Mm-hmm.
who become nurses. That's because it's very much ingrained with the American imperialism when they first came over.
Ah.
Um, so there was a lot of because there wasn't enough nurses for the American colonizers during
Right.
that time when they went over to the Philippines, and part of it is that the Philippines didn't have the standard of healthcare
Mm-hmm.
that the United States had,
Right.
so there was that big push for the native Filipinos to learn how to become healthcare professionals to the standard of the United States.
Interesting.
But
Interesting.
yeah, that's a little side history there.
Huh.
So, but yeah, that kind of influenced the decision of why my mom became a nurse and why my parents pushed me to become a nurse because, hey, it's something that we know.
That's super cool. That's super cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Um, the history of the Philippines is so interesting to me, and I still like want to learn more about it. I spent a long time talking with Evie about Filipino culture, but I want to know more. I want to know more.
Of course.
Surrounded says, I think my grandmother used to be a doctor or some kind of medical worker. That's super cool. Super, super cool. So, um, follow-up question for you, Rico. Do you
Of course.
get do you get a lot of your friends asking you as a nurse, what do I do about this? Like, should I put a bandage on my thumb or and do do those kinds of questions bother you?
You Not really.
Okay.
I mean, part of it is, at first I thought, hey, I shouldn't be doing this kind of thing, answering these kind of questions, because
Mm,
it should be more like, oh, you need to see your doctor.
yeah.
But, um, but that's the thing. Like, I think it depends on the context and where exactly I'm
Yeah.
giving those statements, that education.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing if it's like a public platform, like say Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know one of my other VTuber medical healthcare VTuber colleagues. Um, some of them do AMAs on social media,
Uh-huh.
but they always try to be careful not to skirt that line. Um, so that way it's just for general education, not for like, oh, I have this going on with me. What do I do? You gotta, and they say go see your doctor.
Wow.
For me though, um, I'm very much in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have friends um, that ask me, or sometimes even just people that are just acquaintances,
Yeah.
sometimes they reach out and ask, "Oh, hey Rico, can I ask you a question?" Yeah, sure. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to help. And then they proceed to ask me a question about how they're feeling, about how they're about something about like what's going on with them. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's one of those messages.
Uh,
Not that I mind.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's a lot of it comes with the fact that unfortunately, when trying to get any kind of access to care,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you live in the United States,
Yeah.
um, it can get pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And having any kind of conversation, like one would have, I sometimes my friends ask me over DMs or over
Mm-hmm.
call.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that'd be worth what, a 30, 50, $60 visit,
Yeah.
or over the phone,
Yeah.
when they could just call up or hit me up.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, and that's the thing. Like, I recognize that
Mm-hmm.
because access to care, unfortunately, is very much tied into um, your socioeconomic status.
Yeah. For sure.
And unfortunately, not a whole lot of us, um, even though I'm a young professional now, I
Mm-hmm.
say quote unquote young, um, even though I'm a professional now and I make a good chunk of money.
Yeah.
Even I know it can. Even me and Annika struggle less.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what more for anybody else that's around my age or even younger?
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing. We're struggling We're all struggling here. So, um, I want to help out where I can.
Yeah.
So if it's over a private message, or say it's like over a call, then yeah, I don't mind helping out a little bit
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
Like just the other day, I was another VTuber friend hit me up,
Uh-huh.
and they're asking me what they could do about feeling sick,
Mm-hmm.
um, and their symptoms. I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds like this.
Yeah.
You can go ahead, grab these from the pharmacy. You could also do this with your sinus passages.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't improve within the next 2 to 3 days, go see your doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
So I have some things to respond to about what you said, but first I want to say
Yes.
a couple things in chat. So hi Annika, hi Frank, hi there Igris. Happy to see you all. I do want to share with you. Annika tells me a story. You may not know this story, but the
Uh,
story is, FYI, puppy. I sliced my toe open. Long story, and made Rico do the wound care instead of going to the ER. Did you know that?
I should know because I was the one who did it. She called me up, and she literally video called me. I was like, babe, how does this look? Do I need to get stitches? I'm like, okay, wipe away the blood. It's not that deep. Yeah,
Oh my
you just need
gosh.
to you just need to make sure it's wrapped pretty tightly
That's
and
adorable.
take care of it for the next couple of days.
That's adorable. Another question from chat. Surrounded says, I'm curious how much Rico would charge for his care if the healthcare system wasn't so prohibitively expensive. That's probably not something that you can really put a number on.
That's the thing. how much I would charge?
Mm,
The quote unquote political answer
yeah.
in my manager brain would say, well, what's your insurance negotiated
Yeah.
with the company I work for?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I'm not working for a company while I'm a VTuber, while I'm out and about.
Yeah.
I simply help out because I care.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I I don't need anyone. I'm not going to charge anyone to get my advice or like to
Mm-hmm.
get some education. Education should be free.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's no, I wouldn't charge. If I had the ability, I wouldn't charge anybody for my care.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, well, if I had my own business and I was like doing nursing like as my own
Right.
private practice,
Uh-huh.
then yeah, I probably charge enough to get by and pay what I need to pay for.
That makes
But
sense.
I probably wouldn't be asking for a whole lots. But if anything you need, but if you want my education, it's all free.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Ignis. Ignis says, POV, every school nurse, when you get your arm cut off, here's a band-aid. But I wanted to talk about what you said about
Hmm.
insurance coverage and things like that, because I had a thing happen. This happened about a year ago, and
Yes.
I'm still kind of fuming about it. So I'll tell you about it. My doctor told me that the medical practice that she's in. This is my general
Hmm.
practitioner, or my PCP, primary care provider. Yeah.
Yep.
She told me, we really want you to ask questions on our app. We want you to ask questions on the app. Send me questions. If you have questions about anything, send me messages on the app, just anytime, right? And I took her
Hmm.
at her word for that. And so I asked a couple questions, asked a couple more questions. What does this look like? Does this look okay? Just very simple questions. Then I
Yeah.
got a heckin' bill for $40 per message on the app.
Per message?
Per
What the?
message. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
Yep,
Oh,
yep.
I'm gonna. Okay.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
It is disgusting. I know. I actually had a crash out a couple days ago
Mm-hmm.
about uh, about health insurance and the like. Because I had to deal with that with one of my patients.
Yeah.
And it was like, why? Why are we making it so hard
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
people to get care? Why
Yeah.
are we making this so difficult?
Yeah.
Why the hell do we have a middleman
Mm-hmm.
to tell us how much things should cost or who they can or cannot see when it's when it's the doctors, the prescribers who are the ones who know the patient best?
Yep.
What the fudge?
Yep. Yep. I completely agree. You know. And so often I find with doctors that I'll tell them like, oh, I have this problem, and they're like, it's probably fine. It's nurses who give me the best advice. Oh well.
Really?
Yeah. That is my opinion. I don't know. Maybe I don't have a good doctor.
No, I mean, uh, I think part of it is, not. Oh, hi, Davi. Good to see you. Thanks for joining the stream.
Wow! 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 Hi, Davi.
But yeah, it's yeah, that's the thing with the way medical education, healthcare education is.
Yeah.
It's something that is experiencing a bit of a paradigm shift
Mhm.
as of the past couple of decades, where instead of the practitioners, the providers, instead of being paternalistic,
Yeah.
them saying, "Oh, you need to do this,"
Mhm.
it's more like the dialogue is becoming, "All right, so what are your goals of care?
Yeah.
What do you want to happen?"
Yeah.
And we can help and we can collaborate to see how we can get there.
Yeah.
And if not, at least as close as we can get.
Mhm.
So that's the dialogue that's trying to be taught right now in healthcare education nowadays amongst professionals. However, that paternalistic bent is
Mhm.
still very much prevalent, unfortunately. So it's something we're always trying to catch as well.
Yeah. Comment from chat here. It sucks. This is from Surrounded. It sucks that we
Hmm.
live in a world where everyone has a reason to celebrate what the claims adjuster did, and we're allowed to be mad at the victim for creating that world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. So I can't. I'm not gonna comment on what
Yeah.
what on that particular incident. As you know, things are still being investigated.
Yep.
However, it is understandable where that frustration comes from, because millions of Americans have to deal with it
Yeah.
every fucking day.
It's true. It's true.
So it is quite frustrating.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, we've talked about a couple negative things now. We've talked about some of the darker sides, but I want to maybe bring us back, and I'd like to ask you the next question, which is, can you talk about the greatest joy that you get from what you do, from your job?
The greatest joy.
Yeah.
I think it's getting to know my patients.
Oh,
I think that's the biggest thing. That's why I work outpatient.
yeah.
Because when you think nurse, you think, oh, they're working at the hospital. It's a long, either 12 hours during the day or 12 hours overnight. And, but that's the thing. You only see them for maybe a couple days at most.
Right.
But you probably don't, hopefully, you don't have to see them ever again. Right? But that's the thing. Nursing is a very big field. There's more to it than just the hospital.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy my work being an outpatient, because I get to form these relationships, these bonds with my patients that I see almost every day.
Yeah.
You get to know them pretty intimately. So for me, just being able to see them every day, to see them, see their failures, see their successes, see them like grow, or even see them fall. It's it's something to be witness to it. But I think that's why I love doing what I do, because it's kind of a snapshot into people's lives, into their humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's important that we keep that in mind in our own lives.
Yeah.
Because like I that's why I like the work that I do in outpatient. Even though it's very much still the same thing, it's the one thing I'm doing. I'm helping give dialysis treatment. It's still very much, there's still very much a lot to do in it.
Yeah.
And there's still so much that we need to consider. It's all about the holistic view of a person,
Right.
not just, oh yeah, their kidneys are broken and we have to do the filtration for them. No, we got to try to consider every aspect of their lives.
Yeah.
From whatever factors they can control to the things they can't.
Yeah.
And we try to work with that. Hi, Silk Kitsune. Thanks for joining on the stream for the first time. I'm RikoSiempre RN, VTuber RN educator, and RN in real life. And I'm here with Puppy-sensei, who's streaming on her end, Minority Report. And she's interviewing me.
Yay. As I think about it, go ahead.
Oh, Davi had a question. Have you ever had a case that was really hard for you emotionally? Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you mind if I share?
Please go right ahead.
Okay. Anka should be aware of this particular case. We had a patient. Thank you for the follow, Silk. Thank you so much, and thank you for the star. So Annika and we used to work together for the same company in the same clinic a couple years ago. That's actually how we met.
That's so sweet.
Office romance, baby. But we had this patient. Her name was Mary. He was once you got to know her, she was like a second grandmother to me. She, even though like there was a whole lot of things wrong with her, he'd constantly be asking Annika and I, how are you guys doing today? How's school? I hope you're doing well. And we always chatted with her. We had a lot of stories. She shared her her life, her history with us, how she used to be a teacher back in the day too. um, how she grew up. How she grew up being raised by the Catholic school teachers, with the and that whole stereotype of them whacking the ruler on your hands was real. But yeah, it was something. We absolutely adored her, and it was sad seeing her deteriorate when she first came into our clinic, to when she was walking by herself, to the point where she needed to be on a wheelchair because she had bilateral amputations
Mm,
to her legs, so that means both of her feet were missing,
right.
if I remember correctly. So it was just hard seeing her um, become the way becoming, you know, getting worse.
Mm,
Adding to the fact that her family really adored us too.
yeah.
They were very thankful that we were taking care of her mom, and but I think I'll thank you for the gift, Silk. Appreciate it.
Mm,
But I think the when I think about it, um, with her case, it's like we both, Annika and Nush, she was declining, yeah, but she still had a good, I want to say, a couple years.
mhm.
But we were hoping she would, if she's going to go on her own terms. She was going to go on hospice,
Yeah,
in the company of family, in the company of loved ones, in her own home.
right.
She deserves that, right?
Yeah.
But then one day we get a call from her son, and then he tells us that he she died in a car crash.
Oh no.
Yeah, all that could do one in.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be the diabetes that might get her, or or gangrene or infection,
Mhm.
but a car crash. And unfortunately one in which it was her son behind the wheel when it happened.
Mm,
It was tragic.
that's
The
awful.
Yeah,
Mm,
and I think between me and Anka, our biggest regrets in that we never got to. Um, I think our biggest regret in um, in our relationship with me was that we never got to tell her that that Anka and I were in a relationship.
oh.
Um, because we tease that, because um, with Filipino names, there's like two first names.
Okay.
So I go by one at work, but at home I'm another.
Huh.
And so um, Annika would tease to Mary, oh, Rico doesn't approve of my boyfriend. Because I'm like, I'm teasing at work, like, oh, what'd you do this weekend with him? Oh, we did this and that. Oh, that sounds nice. Are you sure he's really out there for you? We would do that kind of song and dance.
Yeah.
But whenever Annika talked to Mary about a relationship, he would light up,
No.
and it really helped give her an escape from her health issues,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the fact that she passed the way she did it was tragic.
Yeah.
He
I'm so
deserved a
sorry.
whole lot better.
That's
He deserves
awful.
so much better.
No.
And it's been a couple of years since then,
Mhm.
but it's always something um, always we always remember, and always at the back of our minds.
Yeah.
So,
Annika shared something similar in my chat, and it just like my heart goes out to both of you. And
mhm.
again, I just want to say thank you for all that you do, because as tragic as that is, for a brief time, you made a difference. You know.
Yeah, saying thank you for sharing. I asked just because working in funeral services, there's some really emotionally tough cases. There are.
Yeah.
There are. But that doesn't stop me from doing what I do because people need care for. People need to have compassion.
Yeah.
Someone's got to be there when it's rough. So
Yeah.
the good work keeps going.
I definitely remember in all of the time that, I spent in the hospital, in and out of the hospital over the course of 2 years, and the previous surgeries that I had before that, the health problems that I had kind of throughout my life. I definitely feel like there's nothing more intimate than the kind of like vulnerability that we as patients have in a hospital. And sometimes it's really, really, I don't know, just humbling. There's something's just very, very human about being able to say, I can't do this on my own and I need your help, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
But empathy is the building block of how we became the hate to say it, the top dog of the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's how we're able to be where we're at.
Mhm.
It's the keystone to civilization. It's
Yeah.
empathy. It's empathy.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to go ahead and move on to the next question. We've already sort of talked about this a little bit, but just to reiterate,
hmm
what kind of content do you make as a VTuber?
So as a VTuber, pretty sure I mentioned this when I
Hmm.
introduced myself.
Yep.
I create healthcare, education, nursing, education content. Whether it's through live streaming, through scripted videos and shorts,
Hmm.
um, through podcasts. I do my best to communicate, to be a health communicator.
Yeah.
Hi Joshua. Thanks for joining in on the stream. I'm
Hmm.
RikoSiempre RN, VTuber RN educator, and IRL nurse.
Yeah.
Today I'm being interviewed with Puppy-sensei for her show, Minority Report.
Yay.
But yeah, it's and I was inspired to do this kind of content because whenever I was working at the clinic
Hmm.
or whenever I talked with Annika, I would always get the I was always said they always said to me that Rico, you got a good way of like explaining things and teaching things to patients, so that way they can understand.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, when it comes to communicating um, some of these things, when it comes to anatomy, physiology, disease,
Hmm.
healthcare in general, sometimes it really does go over your head.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah, I might know about it, but does your layperson know about it?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to lower the barrier, so to
Hmm.
speak, for people to understand um, disease, to understand health, wellness, um, to have a better understanding of what it means to be healthy.
Yeah.
Um, and in doing so, I'm hoping through my education, people can become more. People can become their own advocates
Hmm. Hmm.
when they're seeking care out there, IRL.
Yeah.
You know, because being a VTuber, it's ultimately we try to be a safe space for anybody that wants to join in our communities, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So, what better place to do learning in a safe environment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You know,
I wish that was the case surrounded. Screw that jargon. Just let me drink the magic potion that makes my bones stop hurting. It's a lot more complicated than that, unfortunately.
yeah. One of the
But
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. One of the things that I always find as an educator is that I have a really hard time finding that place where I can determine what it is that other people don't know, right? So as I'm teaching Japanese, it's so hard for me because I do this in and out every day of my life. I translate every day. Every single
Mhm.
day I am translating Japanese. And so it's sometimes hard for me to find a place where I can recognize you probably don't know this. You know what I'm saying? And I wonder if that's the case for you as well.
Yeah. So it is kind of surprising the amount of times when we get a new admission to the
Mhm.
clinic,
Mhm.
and then I ask the patient, "So, do you know what it is that we do here, and do you know why you're here?"
Yeah.
And then I get an answer, "Oh, my doctor just told me to get this thing in at the hospital,
Mhm.
and just come over to this clinic, come over to your clinic at this date and time, and just go from there."
Yeah.
I'm like, "And did he explain anything what's happening with you or what's going on?" And they're like, "No clue."
Wow. Wow.
So, unfortunately, it falls upon it's happened multiple times in which the nurses need to educate
Mhm.
to the patient what exactly is going on um, with their condition.
Yeah.
So, um, for me, I always start off trying to assess what do they know right now.
Right.
Um, and I try to remember, like, okay, where was I in my journey of understanding this,
Mhm.
and how can I best communicate what I know now compared to what I knew then?
Yeah. Yeah. I just
Well,
want to quickly interject very quickly. Annika is sending a message through through area to Surrounded. Annika would also like a magic potion that cures all ills.
Surrounded also says you kind of have to remember that you were like what you were like when you didn't know and
Mhm.
how you would have best learned it. Yeah, exactly. That's the
Yeah.
case. And part of and that's the thing about nursing. It's more than just giving meds
Mhm.
or making the beds or just charting.
Right.
A lot of it is learning how to teach.
Mhm.
It's learning how to educate. It's learning how to manage
Mhm.
time. It's a lot of different soft skills all boiled into one field,
Yeah.
aside from the hard skills and knowledge that you learn.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, I got to head out. It's bedtime for me. Okay, Davi, have a good night. I hope you feel better, okay?
Bye,
Take
friendo.
care. Bye, Davi. Love ya.
Divine Fox also says, I want cyborg parts, and me too. I want to be a cybo dog. Cybo dog? Cybo dog? Cyber dog.
Davi says, bye, Rika and Puppy.
Yay! Um,
She says, if we have a magic potion, I would have a big pair of boba canisters.
I I'm super curious, and I don't
Yes.
want to. Gosh, this is a thin line to walk, but I know that there is a heck of a lot of stigma around diabetes. I know that there's so much stigma around it, and there we have this dumb, I'm just going to say dumb idea
Mhm.
socially that, like, well, that's a very preventable disease, all you have to do is do this and this and this. And again, I'm going to be really careful with how I phrase this, but when you
Okay.
have patients come in who say, I don't know, my doctor sent me here, I don't know, do you ever get the sense, by the way, hi Moral, hi, happy to have you here, always happy to see you. But I'm curious if you
Coolest
ever,
cat, here I am.
yeah, cool as cat. Um, uh, I have to ask if, like, you ever get the sense that that is coming from a place from the patient of, like, maybe I do know something but I don't want to admit it because I'm afraid to.
It a lot of it depends on the context of the case,
Yeah.
um, and the capability and knowledge of what the patient has.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. So the most correct answer would be it depends.
Yeah.
It really depends on how a patient ended up where they're at.
Yeah.
So like say for example, one patient, here's a common story you're going to find for end-stage renal disease patients. A lot of them have hypertension. A lot of them have type 2 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, those two are the biggest contributors to end-stage renal disease.
Yeah.
Type 2 diabetes and hypertension are lifestyle diseases,
Mm-hmm.
meaning to say it's something that's that has occurred because of their decisions
Yeah.
in their life. They like I say at the end of my streams, they didn't necessarily choose wisely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes it happens regardless of how good they take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I have taken care of young people who have type 1 diabetes. That's gestational diabetes. So they through no fault of their own,
Mm-hmm.
they're dealt with a bad card, or someone got injured and they had unfortunately there enough blood didn't go into the kidneys and now they need dialysis for life.
Yeah.
That happens too, and that's not their fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not that some of it can be prevented and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just dealing with the hand they're dealt.
Right. Yeah.
So it's always going to be a mixed bag when it comes to the next new patient.
Yeah.
Because you never know exactly what led them there.
Right.
Even then, we have to be empathetic to those people who've made those quote unquote unwise choices, because what other choice did they could they make?
Yeah.
Like, where were they? How are they socioeconomically?
Yeah.
Do they live do they live in a decent neighborhood? Good schooling all around, or do they live somewhere where it's a food desert, where the nearest grocery store is like an hour away, but there's liquor stores everywhere? And trying to find any kind of doctor or healthcare, it's miles away.
Yeah.
That's that's part that becomes an issue too. And that's something that at least with current healthcare education, as opposed to in the past, that we're trying to embrace as well. It's the public health aspect of everything, the social determinants of health.
Yeah.
So it's like, to boil it down, it depends.
Couple comments from Anika that I like a lot. To be fair, a patient may know that they have diabetes, but not know how they ended up on dialysis, which is very, very true. And then to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying about their access to kind of like good, healthy food and other things, the question of whether or not they can afford their medication is a big thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like your doctor can yell at you when they're red in the face. They can't do shit if you can't afford the medication.
Yeah.
Like, because what are you going to do if rent comes down and you need to pay for and you need to pay for it?
Yep.
Would you rather have a roof over your head or medication take care of your high blood pressure?
Absolutely. Yeah, and insulin is stupid expensive, as Anika says. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Surrounded says, we don't know why they made what choices they did, but we should make choices to help them address the results of their choices.
For sure.
That's true.
Yeah.
So part of it is harm reduction, harm mitigation, and trying to at least help them achieve the best quality of life possible at their current health.
Yeah. Absolutely.
She says, did they even have a choice? Sometimes people don't really have a choice. Exactly. Not everybody has a choice. Sometimes shit just happens. I've taken care of kids who have busted kidneys because they were born with bad kidneys and they need dialysis. They're sitting there in the chairs with all these retirees, and here's a 16-year-old kid who should be in high school. Who should be out with friends, hanging out, doing stupid shit like a teenager should. But no, they have to be in the clinic 3 to 4 hours 3 times a week to get treatment. That's sad.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
it's the hand that they're dealt, and we're here to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to move on to our next question here.
Mm-hmm.
So from a certain point of view, I think, not even just a certain point of view. Like, the fact of the matter is, you are a nurse, and you are a teacher, and you are a VTuber, and I think that all three of these fields are kind of traditionally dominated by women. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
ask you if, from maybe a certain point of view, if you find that you're actually maybe in the minority as a male in all three of these, as a nurse, a teacher, and a VTuber.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely a minority. That's for sure.
Yeah?
I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, as much as being a teacher or being a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
it's being an equal opportunity employer.
Mm-hmm.
Those fields have been traditionally held by women.
Yeah.
Um, and the thing is, with VTubing, it's still within the field of entertainment, and with being an entertainer, a lot of those, a good chunk of the population who are entertainers are women.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not that I'm complaining about it, which I'm absolutely not, but there are statistics that show that, hey, guys in these fields,
Mm-hmm.
men in these fields, um, they are there's not we are a minority in them.
Yeah.
That's no question about it.
Yeah.
And is it is and sometimes it does get a bit disheartening,
Mm-hmm.
being where I'm at,
Yeah.
because we don't necessarily, at me as a man, um I wasn't raised with knowing how to navigate
Mm-hmm.
um woman coded experiences,
Right.
the female experience.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that goes unsaid,
Right.
sometimes I don't even know or notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's take for example,
Mm-hmm.
um looking back at what happened to me in my previous job, I'm pretty sure I was a target of indirect bullying.
Yikes.
Yes.
Yikes.
It happened to me twice,
Okay.
because the first time happened when I was in LVN.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, from what I learned after the fact, after uh, after that particular job,
Mm-hmm.
after they canned me, was that, oh, they were saying some mad shit behind my back to management, and because they were planning to take over my position, which was full time,
Uh-huh.
and the other nurse was part time. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what the fudge?
Yeah.
Here I am just trying to do my job.
Right.
And then, like, the other job I used to have, the one before I took this one, was apparent like my partner, who you're supposed to trust
Mm-hmm.
and work alongside with,
Right.
because if you're working together, you need a certain modicum of trust.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she was complaining about me and my work ethic behind my back,
Wow.
when and part of me felt like, hey, am I going insane?
Yeah.
Am I doing something wrong?
Yeah.
What's wrong? What's up with me? Like, I'm pretty sure I'm doing everything I'm supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
but unfortunately, um, even though I said that stuff in my defense, I felt like, I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
I was the one who, unfortunately, I was the one who was made a scapegoat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it sucks because, like, I can't. For me, it is. I'm trying to learn now.
Mm-hmm.
Those subtle ways of manipulation, and unspoken language,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, that I was not exposed to growing up,
Right.
as a guy.
Yeah.
So for me, it's something that I'm still trying to navigate even to this day.
Yeah.
Um, not to say that, even when I was in school, I was consistently misgendered,
Mm,
because guess what? The instructors, they were late. They were older women,
mm-hmm.
and the majority of my classmates, they were women.
Yeah.
So sometimes every morning I'd hear when we before we begin lecture. All right, ladies, let's go ahead, quiet down. We're gonna start
Wow.
lecture. I'm like, I'm right here, but okay.
Wow. As if you don't even, well, I want to quickly say hi, Cherry Cub, and welcome in Rob Baratheon. Hajimemashite. It's nice to meet you. I am Puppy-sensei. I make Japanese language content to help you level up your abilities, and today we are doing Minority Report with my wonderful friend RikoSiempre.
Hello there.
um, yeah, that kind of like, I don't know what you would call that, that feeling of being invisible or erased. That's really rough. It's really, really
Yeah,
rough.
yeah. To which, for me, it's like I'm sitting right here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can see the full-on beard and stash. It's not.
Right.
It's non It's not. It's pretty noticeable, but it's
Yeah.
like. But I don't know. I'm also trying to be empathetic to their point, because that's probably what they've been used to
Mm-hmm.
for decades of teaching,
Yeah.
and I can't necessarily fault them for that. But at the same time, it's like, well, you're supposed to be helping to advance in our career. We also need to advance in our views as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
um, but yeah, and that's I can't really speak as a teacher.
Right.
Like, I don't really have uh, teaching credentials per se. Like, I never had my nursing educator. I was in school for my master's in nursing education.
Mm-hmm.
That's for certain. That's for certain.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did have to medically withdraw
Mm.
because of mental health issues.
Okay.
But I've always wanted to become a nurse educator.
Well, you are now.
Um, well, yeah, I am now, in a non-traditional sense. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
We
but yeah,
stand non-traditional education around here.
but yeah, but as you also notice,
Mm-hmm.
um, most of the teachers that we see out there in the field, they're also women.
Yeah.
um, and they have to deal with and not to say that there are, like you said before, not to say there aren't
Mm-hmm.
male teachers too. That's mainly a female dominated field.
For sure.
And unfortunately, when it comes to these quote unquote female dominated fields, nursing, teaching, um, it would I remember reading what was a sociology
Mm-hmm.
paper or excerpt somewhere
Yeah.
about how these are traditionally quote unquote feminine
Mm-hmm.
duties,
Right.
because they extended to um, domestic duties.
Yeah.
And so with those becoming professions, they were still considered quote unquote woman's work.
Mm-hmm.
They were
Mm-hmm.
still considered feminine work.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where you get the whole insistence. Like, sometimes, those insults where, oh, that's a woman's job and shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When that's absolutely not true nowadays.
Absolutely.
Because it's I don't need to be cold and detached to care.
Yeah.
I can absolutely, men can care just as much as women.
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa. Men
Yeah.
can teach as well.
Yeah.
So it's
Annika is saying
it's some.
teaching
Oh
is
yeah, go ahead.
equal to childcare, which is nonsense, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the frustrating thing, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
I get frustrated that when teachers don't get enough respect,
Mm-hmm.
or they're insulted by
Yeah.
those in power, or or those who are, like, in the majority, because how does that make sense? How do you think you got where you are without teachers?
Yeah. I think I've
And
talked to you about this before, but I watched a
Mhm.
video recently of a teacher who took the most common, like, she basically made a word cloud of the most common kinds of contents that she was getting from parents over the last
Hmm.
10 years. And
Yeah.
it slowly morphed from, wow, I don't know how you do what you do and can put up with a bunch of kids every day, to stop indoctrinating these children.
That's
It
ridiculous.
really is. It's so awful. But this is the world that we live in, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Annika says mothers also don't get enough respect, but that's a different argument, and it's true.
Yep. Uh, she says traditionally education equated to child rearing, which is mostly seen as a ladies' role. Yeah, yeah, like
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
it's that's what it was, traditionally.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nowadays we're trying to break those, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we don't need to continue things as is, because we can, things can change too.
Yep. Yep.
But you also asked me about being a man in the VTuber space.
Yes, yes.
too.
I was just going to get to this, and I think, from a certain point of view, being a nurse, being a teacher, we can kind of thread empathy through there. Being a
Mhm.
VTuber, yes, I think for me as a woman, empathy is part of what I do as a VTuber. I definitely want to connect with my audience, make everybody feel good, make sure that everybody's doing okay in chat. That's definitely something that's important. But I also
Mhm.
feel like within the VTuber community, it's about having somebody sexy to look at, right?
Yeah, part of it is there's old, it's the old adage, sex sells.
Yep.
What can you do about it?
Yeah.
And I am. Let's be real. Like, I'll zoom out on my model on my side. I am by no means a sexy man. I'm no Eddie Knox. That man. Oh God, Eddie's so hot. But but for reals though, and but I don't fault anybody that wants to use sex appeal in order to attract an audience, and that's
Yeah.
fine. You do you.
Yeah.
She says sex sells. Didn't a flat chested VTuber become the most popular? If you're talking who I think you're talking about, yeah, no, I get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But let's also be real in that it's still a very, very much female dominated entertainment field too.
Yeah.
It's I mean, you just got to look at the look at the divide between HoloLive and HoloStars.
Mm-hmm.
The minute Shion wanted to collaborate with some of the HoloStars boys, the unicorns became absolutely livid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? When was the last time you touched grass and actually met people?
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? All right, guess what? VTuber fans, men and women can have relationships that are non-sexual.
What?
They can just be friends.
What?
Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I will
Yeah.
also read a comment here from Annika. I'm a good Hyrax and not comment about whether or not I find my husband sexy.
But not to say that the men who are in VTubing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just real quick as an aside. Not that I'm also. Not that I don't want to mention anybody who's non-binary, transgender, or anywhere in between.
Right.
But in terms of talking about the subject in general, I'm talking about between male presenting and female presenting, and I'm just trying to simplify the language there. But that's just an aside.
Yeah.
But Surrounded makes a good observation. No matter how unsexy you try to make yourself, the patriarchy will try to evaluate through the lens of how screwable they can make you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't matter if sex appeal or not. Part of it is like, what do what part of it is like, unfortunately, there's still that lens of like, oh, how attractive is the design? How attractive is the appeal? Um, and there's no mistake that there's but it's a very female dominated field.
Yeah.
Not to say that you can't be a sexy guy and do it. There's plenty of like quote unquote sexy male VTubers out there. But for me though, am I trying to appeal to that? No, not in the slightest. Because that's not what I'm for.
Yeah.
If that's how my other my cohort, my colleagues in the VTuber sphere, that's how they want to approach it, that's fine. Yeah. That's totally reasonable. That's, you go get that bag. You support yourself however way you want. But at the same time, you also need to be responsible for the decisions you're making as well.
Yeah.
That comes around with it. Not to say that some things you deserve or not by all means, no, but it's more that it's where you have to tread carefully about what kind of content you want to produce.
Absolutely. And the day is coming. The day is coming, everyone, when there will be, I have never done it before, but the day is coming when there will be spicy art of Puppy-sensei. I have it in mind already. I know exactly what I'm doing. So it is coming. It is coming. I would say not terribly spicy, but
that's what she said.
Yeah, that is what she said.
But personally, like in terms of the content that I make as a VTuber,
yeah.
On the spectrum between say so and sus, I think I lean towards say so, but I'm not afraid to get into sus topics.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's the reality of how we how humans are, how people are. Those are completely normal things to talk about. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I just won't bring it up. I mean, yeah, sure, I'll bring it up every now and then, but is it going to be the main point of my content? No. The main point of what I want to do is being able to teach people how to best navigate their health in their lives.
Yeah.
Not just physically, but mentally too.
Yeah. Annika says, to be fair, as a nurse, you cannot be embarrassed about giving sensitive talks. So I completely agree.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've and that's I think that's that's what I'm always trying to go for. I know like it's not that I don't think I can't keep an audience with say Azatsu or singing or playing video games, stuff like that. I mean, I can do that, but that's not how I want to build my community. That's not how I want to make content. I want to make content focused on trying to help people out.
Yep.
Not to say I can't do those things on the side for funsies, but
yeah.
That's just how I want to do things.
Yeah, make the kind of content that you want to watch.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
So, here I am. I want to, I want to be able to be proud of what I make, and regardless of whether I'm a man or a woman, I want people of any gender, of any biological sex, any age group to be able to take what I teach and be able to apply it to their lives.
Of course. Yeah. So far, we've talked a little bit about this idea of kind of being in a reverse minority sort of space where you are in 3 different fields that are all traditionally dominated by women, and what that's like for you. I think that that's really, really interesting and definitely something that I want to continue to touch on more. But I'll also say, as I understand it, you also live with a disability, don't you?
That I do.
Yeah.
I do.
What's that like?
So, So when it happened to me, my back injury,
Mm-hmm.
um, I've told this story in a couple of my streams before.
Yeah.
Um, but my back injury happened after the surgery. My doctor said to me, um, if you hadn't, Rico, if you hadn't come into the ER when you did, you probably would have lost your, you probably would have been paralyzed for life
Wow.
from the waist down.
Wow.
And yeah, it was life changing.
Yeah.
Um, so it's so now like I thank God I can, you know, I still can still I can still walk, get
Mm-hmm.
around. I can still use my 2 feet to go up and down the stairs,
Yeah.
you know, to have a good quality of life. I just can't run and jump anymore. But hey,
Yeah.
that still can let me do my job.
Right. Yeah.
But as someone who now lives with a disability, it's I've I've been looking at the world through the lens my patients look through
Of course. Yeah.
because I am them.
Yeah.
I am just as much them as they are me.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who's in a position who needs to care for them,
Mm-hmm.
I constantly need to think of how can I advocate for them
Mm-hmm.
because it's essentially advocating for myself as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but even though the healthcare field, my profession, nursing, it's there to help disabled people
Yeah.
or people with chronic illness, unfortunately, it's still very much ableist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it sucks because even with the limitations that I have, I can still perform well as a nurse. I was able to pass off all the skills, get through all the and have all the knowledge needed to get through nursing school and earn my licensure.
Yeah.
And yet, there are some people out there that think because of my disability, because of the accommodations that have been made for me,
Mm-hmm.
they think I'm lazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I asked for an accommodation at work so that way I can put my feet up when I'm sitting down at my desk for too long. So
Mm-hmm.
that way I'm not totally on my lower back the entire time. 'Cause that's
Right.
where my back injury occurred.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I hear from another person who happens to know this person that this one staff member was saying, "Oh, Rico's lazy. He doesn't do anything." Like, what do you want me to do? I'm in pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta get off my back every now and then.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's the thing, that's the thing with disability. It's people don't tend to see it from don't see it from the person who lives with it
Mm-hmm.
until it happens with them, and that's
Yeah.
the sad part.
Yeah.
I'm MR Pedals. Thanks for joining me on the stream. Thank you for the star.
I have a comment here from Anika. Me being a bit
Yes.
sappy, I truly think that experience is also what made Rico empathetic enough to understand my own health issues, and as such, be able to deal with them as well. That's very, very sweet.
Yeah, I mean, uh, and that's the thing with my back injury. As much as it took away from me,
Mm-hmm.
um, after years of, sometimes I still wrestle with it, but I've reframed it. I've reframed what happened to me as something that also gave me a lot as well.
Right.
Surrounded by Purpose says invisible illnesses, even when it's literally visible,
Mm-hmm.
ableism will overlook it to call you lazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it can, and that's the sad part.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and the thing is, like, I gotta sometimes I gotta make it visible when I when I when I when I walk around with my cane at the clinic.
Yeah.
Do I need to use it all the time? No, but most of the time, yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also to show, look at me.
Mm-hmm.
like I shouldn't need to bust this out to show that, oh, something's up with me.
Yeah.
But the fact that people still don't want to believe you, even after the fact, it's ridiculous. And so, and that's the thing uh, about the profession. As much as we care for those who are disabled, it's still very much ableist, because there's been a lot of questions that came down my way. Oh, can he still do this? Can he still do that? Can I still perform these things?
Yeah.
I know nurses in wheelchairs who still does jobs in the NICU, or still does case management.
Yeah.
Nursing's a huge field, a very wide field. We're not always on the floor. We're not always on our feet.
Right.
Sometimes there's more to nursing than just giving the direct care.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like what I do. I manage. I case manage. I manage people. I do oversight. But I still take care of people at the end of the day, because guess what? We need to make sure that the wheels are rolling the way they should be.
Right. Yeah.
And that's still a very important part of care, because we got to give, our patients deserve the highest quality care that we can give.
Absolutely.
Any less than that is a disservice to them.
I have a
no, go ahead.
I have a comment from Witch Hazel, and then I've got a follow-up question. So Witch Hazel
Sure.
says that they feel very similar the way you do about how their injury actually ended up being beneficial in the long run. That Witch Hazel had an injury on their leg, and it sucks and still gives them issues, but in the end kind of got them to a better place and ultimately saved their life in the long run. I can't really say that I feel the same way about my injury, but one way or another, we are where we are, and we have to kind of forge forward with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we need to reconcile, and and whether or not we decide to assign meaning to it, in a either positive or negative light. And I choose to see it as something that has blessed me with a greater ability to become as empathetic and as caring as I am right now, because without that, I wouldn't have met Annika, I wouldn't have become a VTuber, I haven't met you, wouldn't have met Celeste, I wouldn't have met all my friends I've made so far without this bad thing happening to me.
Right.
But through it, I was able to become a better person.
Yeah. So my follow-up question is, you've talked a little bit about other healthcare workers and your coworkers kind of seeing you after your disability and saying, can you still do this, and can you still do this, and having some very ableist points of view. I'm curious about your patients. Is it ever kind of a boon for you with your patients to be able to say, look, I'm just like you?
Actually, yeah. There's been a lot of incidences where one of my patients, we get to talk, and they're like, Rico, how's your back holding up today? It's doing okay. How's I looked into your lab results. They've been looking good. You've been doing a good job. Yeah, I'm glad we're doing both good on both of our ends.
Oh,
it's kind of like we're looking out for each other.
That's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's I think it's because I think, like I said, it's my disability also becomes a point of empathy for my patients to see me as, hey, this is someone who's also struggling and understands my issues.
Yeah, I know I had that period in my life where I was basically bedbound for a little over 2 years. I couldn't do almost anything for myself, almost nothing at all that I was able to do. And during that period, the place that brought me the most depression, the thing that weighed the heaviest on my heart, was kind of being unable to do anything for anybody else, let alone myself. But I felt like I was a constant black hole of just taking care with being incapable of giving it back. So having that relationship with your patients, where you're able to say, oh, you can look after me too, That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Hey, Sheva, thanks for joining on the stream, and thank you for the star. Good to see you, my friend.
Hi. So, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next question, if you don't mind. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
I had to identify a personal hero, someone inspired to be like, who would that be and why?
Like just like within or
You
what are we doing?
You can answer the question from either whatever your heart speaks to, or you can answer it from multiple fields. It's your question and it's your platform.
My hero.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers.
Wow.
Mr. Fred Rogers.
Wow.
Yeah, he's my hero.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Well, he always led with love and understanding, and always validating your existence on this earth.
Yeah.
That you're special just the way you are.
Yeah. And
that love is at the center of everything.
Oh.
The presence or the lack of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's what motivates you or brings you down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's those lessons I've learned as a kid from watching his program.
Yeah.
That it took a long time for me to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But now as an adult, I do.
Yeah.
It's understanding that that there's enough crap that goes on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We only have each other.
Yeah. And
what better way to care? What better way to be there for each other than to try to love, try to have compassion.
Yeah.
Try to have understanding.
Yeah.
And that was what Mr. Rogers. He not only was he symbolic of it, but he practiced it every day.
For sure.
Even though there were accounts when his own life admits that there's times when there's stress and fracture in a relationship.
Yeah.
But Fred Rogers walked the walk.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was ever any kind of modern day saint, describe one.
Mm-hmm.
At least in our current within our lifetimes.
Right.
Like if we could give Fred Rogers sainthood, I definitely would say yeah.
I agree. I want to say, Mitsuki Odo-san, welcome, hajimemashite. Thank you for the follow. Arigatou gozaimasu. It's nice to meet you. I think, you're absolutely right about Fred Rogers, that I think one of the things that I always notice thinking back on that show is that he tackled some really shockingly progressive and very, very difficult issues on that show for what is otherwise just a puppet show. But I have a Fred Rogers story for you.
What? You have a Fred Rogers story?
I do. So I used to live in Pittsburgh. When I became a teacher for the very first time, I started teaching with AmeriCorps. I've talked about that. And I went to live in Pittsburgh. Part of the contract that I signed required that I lived in the district where most of my students lived. So I was living in a little area called Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. Tiny little place. I wouldn't say tiny. Tiny is not the right word. Let me just say socioeconomically barren kind of location. But I loved my time in Pittsburgh, and it truly it made me into a teacher. It formed me as a teacher. So the thing about Fred Rogers is that Fred Rogers grew up in Pittsburgh. And his studio was there in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh had this thing. I know a lot of United States cities do something where they decorate statues. And in Pittsburgh, it was dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs. Love dinosaurs. So all throughout Pittsburgh, there were these decorated dinosaur statues everywhere. and the one outside of Fred Rogers' studio is dressed up like him with his sweater. It's a T-Rex.
Hey, there you
Yeah,
go.
it's so cool. Witch Hazel also says, didn't Fred Rogers set up a kiddie pool for himself and a guest to put their feet in while they talked to protest segregated swimming pools? I didn't know that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't know
he
about
did.
that.
It's what was it? I forget the name of the he was a recurring character actually. He
Oh,
was
wow.
the police officer, and
Oh,
Fred Rogers consciously was him to portray the police officer because he was a black man.
wow.
Not only just a black man, but he was a gay black man.
What? I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah,
That's really
and
neat.
like during the whole during the civil rights struggle,
Yeah.
he set up that kiddie pool because he wanted to show that it's okay to share these things, these places of joy, of leisure, of fun with other people.
Yeah.
What's to kids, and for kids it's like, oh hey, that's cool, but for adults it's like, huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the thing that he was, for as kind and as gentle as he was very much revolutionary.
Yep.
And that's something that I aspire to be in my own way. I mean, the man straight up talked about death on his on a children's program.
Yep.
Where can you find the fortitude to be able to talk about such a deep subject with with kids ages 3 to like 8 or something like that?
Can you imagine if he existed today? Can you imagine what would happen?
If he still lived nowadays?
If he was out doing the same thing today? Oh my goodness. There would be riots in the street.
There would be, yeah, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure a lot of people recognize him as the good man he is.
Yeah, I hope so.
And
I hope so.
and as much as there's going to be the vocal minority that would speak out against him, I'm pretty sure his legacy lives on in the people he taught.
Yeah. It's really beautiful.
So, in some ways, I want to continue that legacy in what I do, both as a nurse and as an educator, and as a VTuber, and all three combined.
Well, Rico, I just want to let you know that you can be my neighbor anytime you want.
Of course.
So that was a wonderful, wonderful answer, and I think that was just delightful. And thank you for sharing your feelings. I'm going to move on to our next question.
Yeah.
So this is actually going back to something that we talked about very briefly at the top of the episode. Do you find that sometimes your responsibilities as a male nurse are in any way different from those of your female coworkers?
Okay, so here's the issue. This actually also happened to me today.
Oh wow.
We us male nurses, male patient caregivers, patient care technicians, we're expected the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Just because we're guys.
Yeah.
We're expected. We have strength. Just because we can doesn't mean we want to.
Yeah.
Or doesn't mean it's not any more safer for us than it is for for women.
Yeah.
Especially as someone who's disabled, me doing any kind of heavy lifting, that's dangerous for me.
Yeah.
But here I was needing to help lift a patient out from the wheelchair and into the dialysis chair because guess what? Their nursing home screwed up and they transported him in a wheelchair without a sling for us to use the machine on.
Wow.
And that made things a hell of a lot more complicated. And it sucks because here I am risking risking my life and limb
Yeah.
to take care of another patient,
Hmm.
and is that fair on me, especially when it's known that I have that, I can't be doing lifting like that due to
Yeah.
my own accommodations.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the rest of the staff are women, and not and small. Half of them are small women at that.
Wow.
Not I'm discriminating against them or anything,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you cannot expect a petite 60-year-old Asian lady
Right.
to lift up a patient from a wheelchair to the dialysis chair
Hmm.
by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is unconscionable for me to ask that, or have anyone ask that of her.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, so you know, sometimes I gotta suck it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but that's the reality
Hmm.
of what we face.
Yeah.
Are things better nowadays? I'd like to believe so, but let's be real though. There are actual teams that run around the hospital that do lift patients,
Hmm.
from from like the bed to the gurney, and they're literally called lift teams.
Wow.
But most of those teams are comprised of, guess what?
Yeah.
Oh, here goes my dog. Of you know of men
Right. Right.
who are
Absolutely.
hired specifically to to carry patients from one place to another, or
Feels
at least
like
transfer them.
discrimination.
It's not that, and that's the thing. It's not that they don't want to, they're trying to discriminate
Right. Right.
against ladies doing that.
Hmm.
But part of it also comes with like the job expectations too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're not going to find, not to say that there aren't women out there who would want to apply for it,
Hmm.
or like those kinds of jobs or those kinds of responsibilities.
Hmm.
There probably are,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, but it's going to be a lower it's going to be you'll find it it's going to be of a lower chance of you finding them than you'll see guys taking over that
The
role.
bar of entry is totally different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very, very,
So,
very interesting.
mhm.
Um, super fascinating, actually. I don't know. To me, I'm really interested in this idea of what expectations we have for people based on things like their body size. It's just very odd, and I want to ask you. I don't want to
Mhm.
get too political in this moment, but I'm
Right.
really, really curious, and I can't not wonder in this current age of, well, we're not going to let trans women compete in men's sports, or I'm sorry, we're not going to let trans women compete in women's sports, etc., etc. Do you
Yeah.
find that that has increased lately? Do you find that more often there's this idea of, well, women shouldn't be expected to do these kinds of things because they're women?
um God, that's hard.
I think it's a fraught question. So, I mean,
It is a bit of a fraught question, because
yeah.
part of it is like, where can I say from my personal experience
Hmm.
versus to, actual studies that have been conducted.
Yeah,
Those are narratives I don't want people to like mislead on or anything like that.
absolutely.
To which,
Absolutely.
I've been saying it like this until entire interview. Like, these are just my experiences, my
Yeah,
lived experiences. Not the sum totality of what other people are doing, or
absolutely.
what they've been doing to me or something like that.
Yeah. I
Um,
I think,
but
without waxing too political on my own end, I just want to say, because I feel impassioned to do so in this moment, like,
of course,
the idea that is being perpetuated, this like very political, very fraught situation that's being brought forward of like trans women invading women's spaces, ultimately it's harmful to women because it brings up this question of like size and what women can do and whether or not women are able to defend themselves or be as strong as a man. And that's definitely what comes up to my mind every time I hear this argument about trans women in women's sports. Like, women can totally be so much stronger than biological men, let alone cis women, uh, and trans women. I think there are probably 90% of cis women are probably stronger than me because I'm a weak little dog. Um,
And that's the thing that we need to get further away from,
yeah.
is that these traditional gender norms
Mm-hmm.
that we've as a culture have
Mm-hmm.
enforced, whether through through the systems of government, or through our own through the pervasiveness of our own culture.
Mm-hmm.
um it's very much, it's always been brought up, but gender is, it's been brought up in like in academia a lot, but
Yeah.
it's also applies in real life. It's a construct.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am, a guy in a traditionally woman's field,
Yep.
and having, quote unquote, traditionally feminine feelings or feminine urge to
Mm-hmm.
care for other people,
Yeah.
when that's not true.
Yeah.
you know it's the for me, it's a human feeling. It's
Mm-hmm.
universal.
Yeah.
It's something that everybody it can experience,
Mm-hmm.
just as much as the whole, like, the quote unquote male urge to defend,
Right.
to be there for your family or for your tribe, or wanting to reproduce and all that stuff. Women feel that too.
Absolutely. And
It's just we just we just like shoehorn people into
yeah.
these paradigms, um for unfortunately, for our own convenience.
Yes. Yes. And women have no more monopoly over empathy than men have monopoly over strength. Genetics be damned.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure there are plenty of women out there in the world who can kick my ass still.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
do I find that hot? I don't know, maybe.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, Witch Hazel says the entire thing is so screwed up, and it really, really is. The expectations that we put on gender are just broken, just absolutely broken. Um,
Mhm.
and so that's one of the reasons why I was so happy that you were willing to share your story with us. Annika says, trivia time.
Oxytocin.
Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is also highly associated with aggression. Hence the mama bear thing being totally willing to mess you up trope. Yeah.
Surrounded says, for me to remember my wife. I'll have you know, Surrounded, that my wife can kick my ass. So take that as you will.
um, yeah, yes. I don't know what to say about that other than maybe hot. Um,
Yeah, and she says genetics says men are biologically stronger, but to a large extent that can be closed. And it can. It absolutely can. You're like, your genetics, whatever you're born with, the phenotype that you have, it sets the blueprint, but it's up to you whether or not you want to build it.
yes. Witch Hazel says a hyrax may be small, but awawa is an aware cry, or maybe an aware cry, probably English. I don't know. My brain goes back to Japanese. And Anika says that she could totally beat you up, but chooses not to on most days. War cry, Witch Hazel. Okay, understood. A war cry, not an aware cry. Battle cry. Amazing. I think this is a really, really great place to segue into my next question, which is about Men's Health Month. It's
Yes.
almost June. We're not quite at June yet, but we'll be there very soon. And June is Men's Health Month. So I want to know if you would like to say a few words about men's health.
I do actually.
Great.
Um, yes. Oh, did you say wait or great?
Oh, no, I said great. Great. Wonderful.
Ah, yeah. So, um, so here's the thing with men's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is often overlooked
Mm-hmm.
because what is the stereotype you see out there in media? What do you think?
To-
How a guy should handle their problems?
everything that I think is toxic masculinity.
Yeah, it's pretty toxic.
Yeah.
We're conditioned to think that men need to hold it in, not show emotion,
Mm-hmm.
be stoic all the time, but they can only be angry or horny,
Yes.
and that's simply not true.
Yeah.
Men face as much. Men have the same range of emotions as women do.
Yeah.
Um, Although I know Annika, we both had a conversation about like in terms of the depth of feeling or how they feel things is definitely experienced differently, but
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't discount that they can't feel the same as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And men's mental health is overlooked quite a bit because there's that expectation to simply push on through,
Yeah.
to simply turn it off,
Mm-hmm.
or make it in, compartmentalize.
Yeah.
um
Which Hazel is saying men are hurt by toxic masculinity and the patriarchy just as much as women are.
they
Yeah.
absolutely are.
Yeah.
Because when we subscribe to those stereotypes, to those quote unquote traditional expectations of masculinity,
Mm-hmm.
um we we suffer for it.
Yeah.
um and like she says here, men can be emotional as well, but they are told by society to bottle their emotions because
Mm-hmm.
they are seen as the ones who need to suffer in silence.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Why does men need to suffer in silence?
Yeah. Yeah.
They shouldn't. It's suffering is suffering,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of who you are, where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the shitty thing.
Yeah.
And what happens when we don't acknowledge that silence, when we don't acknowledge the suffering?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be resentment. There's going to be people who will look to other people to blame for their problems
Mm-hmm.
because no one's acknowledging how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that affects everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
especially because this is very much a quote unquote um, patriarchal um, viewpoint in our larger systems,
Yeah.
and which is unfortunate
Yeah.
because if we were to be able to address men's mental health in an appropriate manner, in the manner that holistically approaches
Mm-hmm.
um, the and not just holistically, but also like on a large scale approach, like the expectations of what it means to be quote unquote a man.
Right.
um Everybody would benefit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like if man if if a man can learn that it's okay to cry, that it's okay to have these feelings, it's okay to um it's okay to be able to express their emotions,
Mm-hmm.
then they can also learn to express their own insecurities and feelings, instead of turning that into turning that into turning that into toxic rhetoric,
Yeah.
or ignorant or ignorant or ignorant blaming.
Right.
Because it sucks, because it's when if we can uplift and improve the condition of men's mental health,
Mm-hmm.
then society then people as a whole, women, trans people, gay people, everybody and everyone and everybody in that spectrum, like whatever they identify as,
Hmm.
everyone's gonna be better off because guess what? We get to acknowledge that these are very human things that we're feeling. It's not just men who need to quote unquote do it alone.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. um, Witch Hazel saying you can lose your masculinity by aligning yourself with women or queer folks. You're told that there's something wrong with you if you express feelings, and you're punished for not being manly. But of course, it's trans people who end up being the ones who are accused of indoctrination. And Annika is saying, I think the context we had for emotions was more being able to identify the feelings. Like, do you feel sad because of something that was said, or angry because it's expected to be anger? These are definitely really, really good points that I'm thinking about a lot lately.
Yeah, and those are things that I have to. I also still need to wrestle with. Like,
Hmm.
am I feeling sad about what would happen to me? Like, if something were to happen, or am I angry at it?
Hmm.
Like, am I angry because I'm expected to be angry, or is it because I legitimately do feel angry about
Right.
what happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what is the difference between what is learned and what is actually felt?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are things, those are distinctions that unfortunately aren't really taught when you're a when you're a kid, when you're growing up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's and like, even though I watch programs like Mr. Rogers, Sesame Street, and and how they openly talk about having these feelings.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you only get them for like what, 30 minutes, hour to a day at most.
Hmm.
But by and large, you're still exposed to the overall um you know uh culture of the
Yeah.
world around you, of the environment around you, and you're exposed to what you know and what you learned.
Yeah.
And I grew up knowing, learning what I knew.
Hmm.
And part of it is that, there's that if anybody knows about that whole machismo thing from Hispanic culture, we
Yeah.
very much have that in Filipino culture too.
That makes
And
sense.
unfortunately, I still have I still very much have that sense of machismo every now and then,
Hmm.
because it's like, oh, how can I be a good provider? How can I be a good husband? I should be bearing the burdens. My wife shouldn't have to deal with this,
Yeah.
kind of deal. Or like, and unfortunately, it's led me to some places mentally where I shouldn't have to be.
Yeah. You know,
And I'm trying to unlearn that.
it's very interesting because I am very traditionally feminine. I am very, very, very traditionally feminine in almost every aspect of my life. And yet,
Hmm.
I still also feel as well this kind of pull to kind of be the one that does more. Um, and I think in a lot of ways, that ends up feeling very much like a masculine space. Like, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to make sure that I'm bringing in money, I need to make sure that I'm taking care of this and taking care of that. And all of these feel like very masculine traits, but to me, it's just the way that my brain is design, that I feel like I really necessarily need to be diligent and hardworking and take care of just everything around my life to make sure that everything is in order, because I'm a very ordered person,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
in general. So I think this is additional proof that, like, no matter what your gender presentation is, no matter what your sex is, we can just be different. We can just be different people, and that's okay.
Yeah, of course. It's and that's the thing, we have these parts of ourselves that we didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
um that is learned, and that we are unexpectedly still holding up.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and whereas your sense of responsibility and duty lies with in trying to make sure you have things in control,
Yeah.
mine, because you have this because you have this upbringing, or like this of your seeing your life being to have that sense of control, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, I'm trying to fulfill the duty as the firstborn son of my family,
Yeah.
as someone who's supposed to carry on the Siempre name, as
Mm-hmm.
someone who's going to be ultimately responsible for the being the quote unquote patriarch of my family.
Yeah.
My doctor said it best. Despite not being the quote unquote homeowner, I'm very much the cornerstone of my household. I am, I'm all but a name, the man of the house.
Yeah. 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 Which Hazel's saying, wanting to take care of the people that you love is not necessarily a masculine urge. And it's very true. All of
Yeah,
these things
yeah.
can come from many places. It's the same thing as this idea of the dude who invented the terms alpha and
Hmm.
omega for dogs and for wolves. He later admitted, I was totally wrong. They were just good family members. They were just good parents. They weren't alphas and omegas. It's all bunk. It's completely bunk. They're
Well,
just good parents.
that and that study was done in wolves in captivity, not
Yeah,
out in the wild.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to now ask you a very pointed, very direct question that I am afraid to get the answer to, but in the interest of being totally holistic about this and my approach,
Of
I will
course.
ask you the question that I don't want to know the answer to. How do
Okay.
I, as a VTuber, take better care of my health?
You specifically,
No,
or
no,
we're
no.
talking
Just
about
just
VTubers in general?
VTubers in general. Or if you want to tell me how I can be healthier, please feel free. But yes, VTubers in general, how can we be healthier?
I think part of it is, well, like I said before,
Hmm.
if the Venn diagram between people with chronic illnesses or disabilities and VTubers is a circle.
Yep. Yep.
um, Part of it, I think, would be best to prioritize your health above all else, because you only have the one body you got.
Yeah.
Not to say, or me, like inhabiting our avatars and controlling them, here on Irium, Twitch, YouTube, wherever, um, isn't something we need to take care of as well.
Yeah.
But the human body is something that takes so much. It's both resilient and stupid at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, but I think the first step would be to acknowledge where you are at your health.
Yeah.
I always mention to my patients, or anybody, really, that asks me for advice, be like, go talk to your primary care provider. Go talk to your primary doctor. If you don't have one, go and grab one. Set one up. You need to figure out like where you're at in your health, and then go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's one, for
Yeah.
your physical health, at least.
Yeah.
For two, for your mental health, part of it is recognizing where VTubing can make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where it does what it does as, um, like in all aspects of it. Like, for example, for me, in being a VTuber, yes, I've made so many friends, connections, but I've also noticed, like, even though it's supposed to be, even though I do get stress relief from it, I also get imposter syndrome from it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, oh wow, is any of what I'm doing matters? Is
Yes.
any of what I'm doing worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Is the mission I set out for myself, um, and creating the content that I want to see, is anybody else, wanting to partake in it? Is anybody biting? Is anybody wanting to see what I'm making? Is anybody wanting to see what I'm cooking? And unfortunately, that thought comes up to me more often than not. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
Not to say I didn't have imposter syndrome as a nurse. I definitely did. It's just after years of being an RN, being a nurse for such a long time now, I've gotten better at knowing, I know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
But as a VTuber who only started in September of last year, I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm still trying to figure out, if what I'm doing and the ways I'm doing it is effective in being able to, in the goal, in the mission I set out for myself.
Yeah.
And so, at the same time, is understanding that, where am I at my journey right now? It's taking stock of like what you have accomplished. It's taking stock of, okay, just because you don't have those thousands of numbers like the girls at Hololive or Iron Mouse or like the rest of you Shoujo or DG Sanji or like those big indies out there, just because you're not breaking in those numbers like they are, thousands if not hundreds if not thousands, that doesn't mean you're any more successful than anybody else.
Yeah.
Or than you need to be right now.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because them, for the people who are quote unquote big right now, yes, they have a lot of talent, but they also have had some luck in there too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the entertainment industry. It's you can have all the talent in the world, but part of it is it's always that little dice roll there.
Yeah.
For
sure.
But that's where, when we both mentioned earlier, rate the content, create the things that you want to see out there.
Yeah.
The content that you believe in.
Yeah.
And for me, am I going to do like some of the shittier things that I've seen VTubers do? No. Because guess what? That's not me.
Right.
That's not my authentic me. That's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what VTubers need to really set in mind. Like, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish here? And how can you best do that realistically?
Yeah.
Because like my therapist says, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, it's true.
And
it's true.
even though my say right now, like even right now, and I have Chi and Surrounded here in my chat, and they've been here almost the entire time.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm happy that they're here.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that they're here.
Absolutely.
Because they've been here, they've been tuning into my streams for quite some time now, and I'm very appreciative that they would give me their time and attention. You know how much that means to me? That means that what I'm doing matters.
Yeah. We notice and we see it. It really, really matters. Also, welcome in Uncle Imp. Hajimemashite. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and I also remember a while back when I had my own talk with Juju about a month ago.
Yeah.
About one of her mental health talks about burnout. How she was excited to work alongside me because she was happy to finally be able to have an actual healthcare professional sit down and talk about mental health, and I'm like, yeah. and the fact that I'm inspiring other people to do things like this, or like to even set out and take care of themselves now, or even the fact that they know a little bit more than they did before. That's something I always try to remember. Because it's those little things that sustain you, not the big things that come up once in a blue moon. It's those it's the constant good work. The good work that you do,
the tiny moments.
Yeah, it's those tiny moments that matter.
Yeah.
Like 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 for instance, Annika,
Mm-hmm.
she always thinks back to the time when I got her a one of that special Shark Week slushie from
Uh-huh.
Sonic.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But I wanted to make it extra special because unfortunately she had a bad day that day, and so I got an extra bag. I got a bag of shark gummies, and I gave her the slush with that full bag of shark gummies in there, and it became a feeding frenzy.
Oh, that's so
And
cute.
but that's the thing. It's like it wasn't the grand gestures of not to say that didn't matter either. Of me
Right.
proposing to her or me asking or at me asking her to be my girlfriend.
Yeah.
It was like those tiny things between us that I didn't really think would be it was like a tiny thing I did as a gesture of like, oh hey, you had a bad day.
Yeah.
Here, I want to, let me treat you to something. But
Mm.
for her, it meant the world.
Yeah.
And maybe those moments, whether I like it or not, are what matters. Those
Yeah.
small moments, and when you're able to connect with people,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
that's what matters.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something VTubers in general need to understand. It's part of it is like that community building, that being able to, like, yes, we put on this mask of being a silly anime girl or silly anime guy
Mm-hmm.
on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
but part of it is that people also want to see you be you, be
Human.
you,
Yeah.
your authentic you.
Yeah.
You know, being like I end my, like, whenever I end the stream, being bold,
Yeah.
living boldly, living you, your authentic you, your you, being proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see that. They're here for you,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
that's who. Yeah, that's and anybody who wants to support you will be there for you, because you're the you're the. It's not necessarily what
Mm-hmm.
you can learn anything that I teach
Right.
from anywhere else, from like a book, from looking up the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently it's the way I teach it that helps, that help closes the gap
Yeah.
between knowing and understanding.
Right. Yeah. Very, very, very
Uh,
good. It's an excellent point. Um, Annika also makes a point about just in general the mental health of VTubers. In
mhm.
general, take some time to touch grass once in a while. Sunlight is
Oh
healthy.
yeah.
Fresh air is also healthy. To which I say, it's a dangerous business, Annika, going out your front door. You step on the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to. That is a
No,
scary place, the outside.
no, that's true. But VTubers and VTuber fans, we gotta touch
Yeah.
grass. We're like,
Yeah.
people like to say, "Oh yeah, I'm so brain rotted and terminally
Mm-hmm.
online,"
Right.
and they say that's like a selling point. It's sometimes it's not. Yeah, it's fun every now and then, but guess what? There's a real world out there with
Yep.
people you need to interact with.
Yep.
You're not going to be online all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That we have to face what's in front of us, and
Yep.
part of that is understanding that there's a whole world out there.
Mm-hmm.
VTubing, yes, it's an escape,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't indulge in that escape all the time.
Yeah.
You've got to settle things. You've got to face the challenges of your life and the world and whatever the world brings to you,
Mm-hmm.
face first,
Yeah.
and with a head on your shoulders. That's why you got to touch some grass.
Yeah, you definitely can't escape permanently into the internet. Not until 2042. I know nothing. Well, I think this was a really, really good discussion. I think I definitely need to focus on this idea. One of the things that I said going into my VTuber journey was if I can make one person smile, just one person smile, then that is a day that is not wasted. And you made me smile today, so I'm so thankful for that, and I hope I made you smile too, and that's a day accomplished.
Well, Sensei, I would probably say the same thing on my end.
Yeah.
If one person walk away and learn to be in better health,
Hmm.
and better yet, learn to be a better person.
Yeah.
That was then that's mission accomplished. That was doing.
Yeah. Well, you definitely taught me a lot today. As we come toward the end of this interview, I finally just want to give you some time to just speak openly. As this is your platform, I would just like for you to feel empowered to talk about whatever you would like to share with us.
Um, jeez. Um,
Hmm.
well, I mean, right now it's I don't know what to expect in my future being a VTuber right now.
Yeah.
Like, in all honesty, I started this journey in September, and I didn't think I'd be where I'm at right now. To be quite honest,
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be streaming on Irium.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I'd be featured in a fly on off high of all places. I didn't think I'd be talking with so many other talented content creators,
Yeah.
and working alongside them. Um, I didn't think I would be so passionate about being in this virtual space, but
Mm-hmm.
having real impact.
Yeah.
Um, and I really hope and share that, in with my fellow colleagues. Maybe one day I can, I posted on my social media about me considering speaking at an academic conference, or
Yeah.
nursing conference one of these
Yeah.
days, because this is VTubing, and just and being able to communicate in this format. It's something I don't think we've really thought more into.
Yeah.
We're so used to like the staples of being an idol, being a
Mm-hmm.
gamer,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
being the funny internet gremlin, yada
Yeah.
yada, right?
Yeah.
But it can be so much more than that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I want to push those bounds.
I completely agree
I
with you.
and you know I'll I'll see where it can lead me.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, I still consider myself just a guy. People tell me that, oh my God, you're the coolest nurse, or like, oh man, you're Rico. I can't believe it. You're here in chat. It's so good to see you, man. He's so cool. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm just a guy. I'm literally just a guy. I'm literally just in. I literally came home from work and started to stream or record or something,
Yeah.
and I'm like, sometimes it feels a little unreal to where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest takeaway of becoming a VTuber has been all the friendships I've made,
Oh.
um, and all those relationships I've cultivated.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot see myself now having known without having known you, Puppy.
Oh.
And I think that's something I'm very grateful to being a VTuber.
Yeah.
Even if I decide to step away from being VTubing, guess what? I still would love to stay in. I still want to be your friend, even after the fact. If
100%.
I ever, knock on wood, I decide to not be a VTuber anymore.
Yeah. I will always be here for you.
Aw, but yeah, but that's the important thing. Like, as much as VTubing, we always think about how it's clout chasers, or
Yeah.
the next big controversy. VTubing is about
Yeah.
relationships and what we decide to build,
Yeah.
and I think that's something that, for better or for worse, what we decide to build on and what we decide to make of it.
Yeah.
Hi, Coffee Mom. Thanks for joining on the stream.
Hi,
Good to
Coffee
see you.
Mom. Um.
But yeah, it's like, it's those relationships, parasocial or otherwise.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
And that's where we can make the decision of whether to use that for ourselves or use that for something greater than
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's
Give what we
that's
can
my two
as much as
cents.
possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you gotta take care of yourself first, of
For sure.
course.
For sure. Um, well, I want to thank you so much for agreeing to share all of your thoughts with us. I think that this was just a wonderful discussion. And, I'm just going to remind you of how much of my hero you are. I've been saying it for a little bit now, but if people ask me who my Oshi is, I'm gonna say it's everybody in VKind, all of us, and that
What?
means you too. That means you too. We are we are doing we are doing something revolutionary within the VTubing sphere, and it's taking time to get traction, but we're going to rock the world. And you in particular, I have been saying it since before the day that you debuted on Irium. You're gonna be a superstar, and I am just here to watch as you explode into the sky because I think you are amazing.
Well, even though you think I'm a superstar or will be a superstar, I still got my feet on the ground.
Good, good. That's good because with your back, I worry that too much flying would. I don't know. I was going somewhere with this, but I don't know where to go with it.
I don't know. That zero gravity is probably pretty good for any pressure on the back. Just saying.
Valid, valid.
uh,
Well, I love you so much. I really, really do.
I love you too, Sensei.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And I think I'll probably draw things to a close. So I want to thank you, everybody in chat. I would like to thank you, Divine Fox, Uatu, Anika. So thank you. I'm always happy to have you here. Uncle Imp and Witch Hazel, thank you all. And of course, thank you, Rico.
I want to give shout outs to everyone in my chat right now. I want to give shout out to Surrounded, Chi Yukimura, and Coffee Mom. Thanks for dropping by. I also want to give a shout out to Davi as well, who stopped by earlier. I know they couldn't stay on for too long, but hey, always hit me up, my friend.
Yeah.
Always good to see you.
All right. Well, I will bring this stream to a close. Thank you again, Rico. I can't wait to hang out soon. And yeah, we'll catch you another time.
Yeah, probably tomorrow.
Yeah. Until then, matane.
Matane. Bye.
Bye bye.